Hello, my name is Emily from the Economics Tutoring Center, and today we're going to do a few more examples on the quantity theory of money. Before we begin, I'd like to remind you that different teachers like to use different notations, so before you commit to any one way that we do things, make sure to check with your professor. Alright, so now we're going to do a third example on the quantity theory of money. The problem reads, assume you are studying an economy that produces only one good, corn. The economy has enough labor, capital, and land to produce Y equals 800 bushels of corn. The price level is price equals $5 a bushel. Furthermore, assume that V is constant and that in 2008, money supply, MS, equals 2,000. So you might notice that this first paragraph is identical to the problems we just did. So we've already solved for V up here. And it's important that we understand this assumption that V is constant. We really need to notice this because that means that we're going to keep using the V that we found in the last scenario and apply it to this problem. So as we solved in the other videos, we found that V, our velocity of money, was equal to 2. So just going to write that in there, but that's an assumption we're making because it was constant and also because we solved for it in the previous problem. So moving on to the second part of this problem, for 2009, the central bank increases the money supply by 5% to 2,100. Suppose technological progress causes Y to increase to 824 in 2009. Compute the 2008 to 2009 inflation rate. All right. So before we go ahead and calculate the inflation rate, first we have to go ahead and use this equation down here to find out how this increase in the money supply affected our price. Another thing to notice is it wasn't just an increase in the money supply, which moved from 2,000 to 2,100. It was also an increase in the GDP, real GDP, which is represented by Y. So we had Y equals 800 up here in the original problem. And now, because the only thing that will shift our real GDP is technological progress, we had that, and it allowed us to increase our real GDP by 24, bringing us to 824. So an increase in the money supply of 100 and an increase in real GDP of 24. So how does that affect our price level? So using this equation, MV equals PY, where M is the money supply, V is velocity, P is price, and Y is real GDP. M equaled 2,100, and we get that right up here. V equaled 2, we get that, remember, because it's a constant, and we found that in our last equations, equals P. That's what we're solving for. Because if we want to find our new inflation rate, we have to find our new price. And then what was our Y? Well, remember Y increased to 824, so bringing that down here. And there we go. So we have our first equation all filled out. So what do? Well, we just have to solve for P. So 2,100 multiplied by 2 is 4,200. Divide that by 824 equals price. So we just divided both sides of the equation by 824. And if you plug that into a calculator, you get approximately 5.10. So $5.10. So you'll notice that we were at a price of $5, and now we're at a price of $5.10. Alright, so we've already used this equation down here, so now it's time to move on to the second equation. So how do we calculate our inflation rate? Computing the 2008 to 2009 inflation rate. Again, we're going to use this growth rate equation, which allows us to plug in our new and old prices and figure out our inflation rate. So I'm going to switch to orange here to represent the second part of the problem. What was our P new? Well, that was from right up here, 510. That's what we just solved for. What was our P old? We get that from right up here, the beginning of the problem. So both of these are just numbers we're plugging in, $5. And then we need to plug these into the equation, new minus old over old times 100. So $5.10 minus $5 all over $5 times 100. Because we want to make this into a percent, we're going to get 0.02 times 100, or 2%. So overall, we have an inflation rate of 2%. And just to review one more time the important concepts in this problem, we realized that our velocity of money, we assumed that to be constant, so we had to take that 2 from the previous problem. And also, why did we have this increase in price? What caused this inflation? Well, we increased our money supply by $100, remember, when we moved from 2,000 to 2,100, and we also increased our real GDP. So these two things allowed us to calculate our new inflation rate, which was 2%.
Alright, and that's all we have for today. If you need any more help, be sure to come by the Economics Tutoring Center on the second floor of the BA building. Other than that, I hope this helped, and have a great day.